Alright. So last time that we left off, in that of which that we left off on was, let me just do some things while I'm talking. Last time we left off, we did leave off on a point in time that I was designing rounds. Sorry. I was designing rounds for this weapon that we have here. And the round that we were designing was the 35mm, which will be the standard early war that I think early war anti-tank weapon that will work against light tanks of the light tanks, and the goal is to eventually get up to medium tanks of World War II, the early medium tanks. We probably won't get to that level, but we'll see. And then I have one other color I gotta grab here real quick, because it's the only other color that we actually use. Yep, Perini, okay. Akita Inu. Akinu. Alright. This is how I come up with the names of my flippin' rounds. So Akitinu, or Kitanu. I think we're gonna do, so we have Kitinu or Kitanu. I think we're gonna do a Kitanu. Suba. Type 5, because we're still gonna make it Type 5. For this round, we can also gonna have to mess around a little bit with the. You can see it just gets way more pointy. We're not gonna mess around with Spitzer 3. I don't think it's ever used. The only reason why I don't ever think Spitzer 3, and I'm gonna say never try to use Spitzer 3, is Spitzer 3 and Spitzer 1 versus Spitzer 2 versus Spitzer 3. You lose angle. What's it called? The greater the angle, the less efficient that this round is. So Spitzer 2 can pierce more than Spitzer 1, and Spitzer 3 can pierce more than Spitzer 2. The problem is that if you go at a 10% angle, or at like a 30% angle, 30-degree angle, a Spitzer 1 will outperform a Spitzer 3. Because the Spitzer 3 will deflect more likely on a greater angle. So, I really don't think it's worth it to use anything more pointy than a Spitzer 2, just simply because the Spitzer 3 is so easily deflected by angles. But I really do like Spitzer 2 and the idea of using Spitzer 2. I don't know when Spitzer 2 is going to be available though, so I don't have any rounds made in Spitzer 2. Anyways, rather than talking a bunch, we have made Spitzer round. We are going to make it the Kitanu Suba Type 5, and this is the name that we're going to use. And then we're going to make various different variants of it here in a minute. But I do just want to see the different levels of piercing. Kitanu can pierce 5, 6, 7. It's only 7mm. There's the Suba variant. We might have to edit it a little bit. Oh, we definitely do have to edit it. So you can see, by putting in the boat tail and such, the boat tail helps it carry out its energy way longer. So it can carry its energy, and it's not hurting the barrel as much. However, it comes at the cost, and it's also going faster, but it comes at the cost of muzzle energy. And this is probably one of the major reasons why you want to use something like a Type 5 over something like the Type 2, because if we used a Type 2, I will show you, just to prove my point. Proving my point. going to have to edit the type 5. We probably won't edit it too much, and yeah, I had to play around with these numbers a lot. It was like 30 minutes of just playing around with numbers. We're recording, right? Yep, I'm recording. Okay. So you see the type 2 only comes out at 103. Still quite a few barrel lifetime cycles. Came out a bit stronger than the original type 5 did. I have to go back to the drawing board on this because it's hitting way too much. But you can see that it now has more powder in it. But it can be way more capable in joules of energy than the Type 2 can. And I can actually edit this down to make it comparable to the Type 2. So the Type 2 still beating it by a little bit, but it's because it's using a little bit more powder. I might want to attempt to just cook that up a little bit. Just adding a douse of a tiny bit more powder in there. So 2,600 is still a little bit too powerful. We might want to do 275. And if I don't get it now, I'll come back later when I have it figured out on a good amount of powder to use. That's acceptable. 5,000. So now it's 97 versus, mind you, yes, it is still doing very good for the barrel lifetime cycle. However, this is its maxed out energy. It can no longer do any more energy. And that's its maxed out velocity. Everything is maxed out here for 6,500 lifetime cycles, or basically how many rounds is going through the barrel. It's Type 2, 95 at the start, and it ends with just 30.7. Now we have the Type 2 versus we can get a little bit more power out of the weapon, and again, this is an anti-tank barrel, alright? We're not expecting to get a lot of rounds out of this. If you have to use this more than a few thousand times, I think you got more problems on your hands than whether or not you can use the barrel, okay? I think you need more guns in general, alright? So now we're going to update the table, and we'll see that we gain a couple hundred more joules of energy down here, but we now have 97 instead of the 95 originally, and that can help in various different ways. So I'm going to get rid of the Type 2. Go back to the firearm range, and I'll just show you the difference. 1,000 is only doing pedaling with 44%, but this is not plugging at 65% for 7mm at 1,000 range. We'll do the 500. Just cut straight to the 500. Don't even bother with the 250 or the 750. This is doing 99. Kita Inu would still be struggling a little bit. The 96, I think we want to test 10mm will probably really show the difference. Kind of. No, not really. We'll test 9. So yep, 9 will show you 37%. Whereas this one wouldn't even try it, which is not a really good example of it. So we'll just skip to 100 to show you and remind you that this was, I think, the max that we found out was 63% with 10 millimeters. And this thing, right here, was doing 69%. So yeah, we're not gaining too much. Mind you, this is made out of lead, so I will now show you. And we'll just create real quick the steel versions, which is literally just this. This is all it is. And save. Create a different designation for it. Something good practice to do is to change something, one thing, don't change too much, one thing different about the, 1 to 2 different things about the appearance of it so you can actually recognize it a bit better. So now we have a new variant of that, and then we type in a new letter, change the color, and make it steel. Save the design, and now we actually have something that can pierce extremely long range. You can see the amount of barrels. It doesn't have as many jewels attached to it. And it's going to go extremely quickly compared to the original variation of it. Still ending at that. So now we can see that at long range, this thing can still have a lot of piercing. Pierce about 12, I think it is. Yep, 12. So light tanks, or World War I medium, or World War I heavy tanks and World War II light tanks in the early war will be fearing this thing. This is at 2,000 meters, and then we'll cut it just to 1,000 meters to show off a little bit. This is just the normal rounded off steel point type. 99%. 15. Do 17 real quick. So we can reliably say it's about 16,000 meters out. Really easy. This is basically the typical engagement range, if I'm not mistaken, for a tank. 500 meters is like point blank range for a tank, from what I know. I don't know a lot, but I know, well, I don't know everything, but I do know a fair amount. I do know a lot. So it can pierce, I think, about 20 millimeters. Yeah, 20 millimeters. This thing is taking care of light tanks fairly easily, and it is definitely scaring medium tanks at close range. Mind you, this is the pre-World War I variant, so we would be producing a lot of these and then shipping out. We would be producing the guns, producing some of this ammo, and then switching over to the sharpened ammo. So this is what would first be hitting the front lines. Basically, is what I'm trying to say. Urban warfare, ambush style, is taking care of, well, that's not too bad, actually. It could potentially, challenge the side armor of a medium tank. So this stuff would be viable to use up until mid-war. I'd say 1940, 1941 is when this thing stops being able to be effective in this, using this cartridge. And then I'm going to show off the Suba variant. Basically, the other variant would take care of anything that's in, what's it called? Anything that's in, early war, early World War II, and anything that's in World War I. Alright. So, 2,000 meters, we're thinking of buttering. Yep, absolutely buttering up, like cutting through butter. Heavy tanks, World War I. Threatening World War II light tanks. Incredibly. What else are we doing here? Excuse me one moment. There we go. Alright. Make things a little bit easier on myself. Be right back. Alright, I'm back. In a lot more comfortable position. So, testing this one. Yep. Light tanks 1,000 meters away versus the original. It's doing what? 94%. This one's cutting through it like butter. I think 18. 18 is acceptable. Yep. 18 millimeters. So World War I heavy tanks, anything in World War I, really, really scared of this gun. Could you stop that dog? Doggo, please stop. Whatever. So we will try 20 millimeters. Again, this is the rear of World War II medium tanks. And it's cutting through it like butter. Whereas the original variant, I don't believe could do this. Nope, not even think about doing this. But this one's going straight through it. This also means is, mind you, this is just straight steel. There is nothing else really in this to help with spall. There's nothing to help with explosives or anything like that. So that means that this isn't really typically doing too much damage to a tank. But having this amount of piercing without, like cutting through butter, without any, with just solid steel, means that when I add explosives to it, and it makes it less piercing, it means that I can still keep a fair amount of piercing without sacrificing too much for explosive capability. It's 35 millimeters. Let's see here. I think it's 23. Yeah, 22 millimeters. So I can put a little bit of explosives in it, and it'll be a viable weapon to use. But at 100 meters, urban combat range, we're thinking of, hopefully, 30, yeah, maybe 30 millimeters. Maybe 30 millimeters. Actually, I just remembered something. Again, we have so much. Again, I'm super happy I went with the Type 5 instead of the Type 2, because that means I can actually pack this thing full of more explosives. Of more propellant. Now, something you could also do is just change out which propellant you want. Because there were a few propellants that come to mind that I could use that had more push to it, but killed the barrel with too much pressure. This might be useful for that. But we're just going to come into here and hold on real quick. I'm gonna do something. There we go. Alright. So, okay, that's why that was doing that. Alright. Both of these, we are going to simply mess around with this, and as a matter of fact, I'll bring you guys back when I've perfected both of these routes. Alright, so for the most part I've perfected this. I might tone it down on this variant. I might just keep it. It's not that important. Because it still does have 3,000. 3,000 is, again, very good. Now, something to not be fooled by this is that it does say that it has more energy than the other round that I'm going to show off here. But just to show off the difference, packing this with more, it actually thinks about that. I think it still can only do about 12. Actually, it can do only 12, but it can actually Actually, no, it can do about 13. That's nice. It's very nice. But something to note is that technically it does less muzzle energy. Technically. Or technically this does more muscle energy. But to know something about why it's important to have the boat tail and to spitzer your rounds is that this has less energy, technically speaking, but it's going way faster and it's keeping its energy. So now technically, even though it has less muzzle energy, by the time it actually reaches only 100 meters, it's bled off so much of its energy that it's actually less than the Suba, or the spitzered version. So you can see it actually maintains, because it is spitzered, maintains so much more energy over so much longer of a range. So it's actually viable as a weapon. Holy goodness. Okay, my bad. It's actually viable as a weapon system, alright? Alright. So now we will actually see the true performance levels of these two weapons. Of these two cartridges. It's 13. I should do close to 20, I think, right? No, not this one. Not this variant. But it will definitely threaten, yeah. Threaten everything. Yeah, okay, nice. Okay, awesome, amazing, wonderful. 17 out of 1,000, okay. And then at 500, just to look at the different, so they're talking about 90, the difference of 3,000 and the difference of 49,000. 23 might be, yep, 23. So now this can do 23. So now we can actually pack these with APHE, or pack these with some explosives so they can become proper APHE rounds. It's amazing, that's wonderful. Kinosuba. I think I'll test this one more time in urban combat. In urban combat, it does. Hopefully we can get it to 30 millimeters. Oh my goodness. Okay, this can challenge. This is like the first weapon system that I've ever seen actually been able to challenge medium tank side armor. Yeah, it can challenge medium tank side armor and have a little APHE in it. So I'll have to mess around with APHE later. It's so amazing. But then I'm going to also make tungsten variants and super penetrator variants with an high explosive variant, and then I'm going to need an APHE variant. And if you're tracking, we already have the normal lead round and the steel penetrator round. So we're going to need to make 6 variants of 2 different designations of the same cartridge. So you're going to end up, if you're doing things right, and realistically speaking, you're going to end up with a lot of different variants of the same cartridge. So, super penetrating. It's only 35, not costing too much either. 33 millimeters, that is insanely good. But again, not nearly as good as what this thing can do right here. 22,000, so we're talking about probably more than double the penetration. Confident to say, yeah. Yeah. Light tanks from 2,000 meters away with this new round in World War II, probably getting penetrated. Not to mention anything that's a light tank, or anything that's a tank in World War I is getting absolutely pwned by this thing. At 2,000 meters. At sniping range. Like, beyond sniping range, really. It's like artillery range. So you got 1,000 meters for this. And 1,000 meters, it should be able to basically deal with. No, not quite. That's unfortunate. I really wanted it to do 20 millimeters. It's unfortunate, but it does mean that, yeah, it can handle less than 20. Okay, but at 500, which is close combat for this type of weapon system, can deal with 25, which is more than enough for light tanks and medium tank rears and medium tank, not medium tank sides, but medium tank rears it can deal with. So it can disable tanks. It can't kill them. It won't damage the crew too much, but it will make them a sitting duck for artillery, which is very nice to know and hear and see. That's at 500. Maximum, like, urban combat levels. Come on. This is the Suba variant, right? Yeah. So urban combat should do something like 35, maybe? Yeah, kind of. So 34. No, no. What did I do for the other one? 33, 58%. Oh, wow. It only performs a little bit better than the other variant at close range. That makes sense, actually, now that I'm looking at it. Because if we look at the normal type 500, it does only 49,000 joules. And then we look at this variant, and also it's 925. This one has 928, which is not that much more. But at 500, it does have 60,000 versus the other one that only had like 50,000. So that's nice to know, nice to see, nice to hear. Alright. Pardon me while I make a super penetrator round. What else am I gonna have to make? Super penetrator round. We're going to then need an explosive round, high explosives, just packed full of explosive. Tracer round. I don't think I need to tracer round for this one, actually. Tracer round for a tank, anti-tank round? Really? Probably not, no. Probably not, no. I'll make it. I'll make it for training purposes, but it won't be used. So yeah, tracer round, high explosive round, super penetrator round, and a tungsten round. Tungsten round will be the easiest, the other ones will be a bit more complicated. I'll bring y'all back. Alright, so I designed the tungsten rounds, and I'll show them off real quick. I decided to keep the propellant all the way through, because I just feel like this propellant just works really well. I really didn't want to use the M1 propellant. I don't really remember why. I think I used it a little bit when I was messing around with the SAO. The SAO was originally M1, but just worked so terribly with the normal rounds that I just decided not to use it. It's nice to know that they're working fairly well now. But these are the two main differences. The second one has literally a micro amount more powder in it, but it's way lighter. Way lighter with more propellant mass in it, so it does end up having, along with not only just having more propellant mass in it. Oh shoot, you can already see it. There we go. Give me that one. So you can already see, again, just like with the steel rounds, that technically have more muzzle energy. This type technically has more muzzle energy, but as we can see, at just 100 meters, it has 97,000, and it ends up being 49,000, but it starts off with 97,000. By having it properly spitzered and aerodynamic, it's faster with only 100 less joules. So you expect 100 less somewhere over here, right? Wrong. It carries, being spitzered and boat-tailed, carries into 2,000 extra joules. And you can see here, it almost never loses its energy. Because it's spitzered and it's tungsten, it like never loses its energy. It ends up still being 57,000 versus the other one that only ended up with 49,000. So about 8,000 more joules, whereas these guys didn't end up with anything more than 30,000. No, that is super. That's kind of sad. Yeah, nothing else ended up with anything more than 30,000, really. But this is ending up with 57,000. In that close range, they're very comparable to everything else. So it doesn't really matter. But they will still overall have more piercing than everything else here. Yeah. So all in all, we will test it at the 2,000, the 1,000, and 500. Oh wow, hold on, what? Oh my goodness, it is piercing. Okay, this thing is insane. It can pierce 25 millimeters. Okay, this is why they used tungsten in World War II. It can potentially pierce 25 millimeters. And it definitely pierces 24 millimeters. That is almost certainty. So yeah, you definitely want to use this thing on, let's see. Yeah, I could definitely make some crazy rounds with this thing. Could make some insane rounds with this thing. This is non-spitzered, by the way, so we're looking at this is what 56,000 joules do. This thing is doing what the other one does at 2,500. That's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. I can't wait to look at the other one. Like, I'm going to wait, but I can hardly wait. So let's see if we can, the race to 30 millimeters. We're not going to look at what it can do. I mean, we will, since we're already here. We'll just look at, I think it's like 28. 28, so it goes from like 23 to 24 to about 28, 27 to 28 millimeters within 1,000 meters. Fairly good, fairly good. We'll look at 500 meters. It is piercing, hopefully something around 35. It's not piercing 35. It's probably not even piercing 32, is it? No, you can barely pierce 30. So this would be a solid shot. Solid shot tungsten. Nice. Alright, wonderful. But this does mean that it does challenge and make medium tanks' lives very difficult. And this is late war light tanks as well. Late war light tanks, medium tank side armor, 500 meters. That's fairly well. That's not bad. That's fairly well. Now, ambush range. It's more energy than everybody else. It's actually going to be transferring into the target. Hopefully we can get... Okay. We're getting 36 millimeters penetration. It's nice to see, nice to know. 36 millimeters. Okay. So now, this, that's 36 millimeters. Well, probably something more like 34, 33 millimeters. That's at 97,000 joules of energy. So now we're going to change this. Boom. Boom, boom, pow. Jack and my style. This is 62,000 joules. 62,000 joules. This thing can probably do something like really crazy, like 25 millimeters. 2,000 meters away. That's really crazy to me. It's insane. It's insane. Absolutely bonkers, bro. so it can do about 26 millimeters reliably. That's nice. That's really nice. Which means at 1,000 meters, it is ruining everybody's day. Potentially speaking, everybody's day. Let me see, 33? Not even thinking about 33. It is thinking about 30, but it's probably only doing another, what, 29? Yeah, 29. It's doing way more than 28 it was doing last time. So now 500. 500 meters means that it can do, hopefully, nope, really at 500? I mean, the difference is not that much. That is one thing to note, the difference is not that much. Getting closer does not do a whole lot for this weapon system. It's unfortunate. This is why I'm going to need to build this super penetrator round. So it can hopefully outperform the close to mid-range. Because I'm pretty sure these guys don't do that either. Yeah, they're not even thinking about it. That's interesting. Fairly interesting indeed. Normal one does... The normal one has more penetration value? No, something's wrong with that. Something has to be wrong with that. Hold on, what? It's at 500 meters. 81. Oh, this does have 82. That's interesting. What? That's weird. At 500 meters, there's a weird power shift. Very weird power shift. The Suba still holds more energy. Let me see. Suba still holds more, it has less energy than the other one here. And it holds more, so at 500 meters, that's really weird and arbitrary specific. So at 500 meters exact, the unspitzered version performs better, but it performs less anything more and anything less than 500 meters. That's very interesting, actually. Wow, alright. Yeah, that's insane. Performs better. Way better. I didn't even notice that before. Does it perform better? Yeah, it performs better. I think it performs worse at these three right here, these 300 meters right here. But it performs better at longer range and better at shorter range. That's insane, right? Yeah, that's insane. That's insane. These three are... Wow. These are common engagement ranges, too. Interesting. But it's not by much. It's literally by like 3%. So let's move on. That's really interesting. Alright. 85% piercing that. I think the other one was only, what, 34? Yeah, 34. They both only have 34. But this one at 34 is 57, so it's not even 34, actually. 57 is not good for an anti-tank rifle. You really do want something more than 60, yeah. So we can put some explosives into these, which I might do. Just because we want our maximum amount of piercing to be around 30. That's the goal, is to have 30. So let's see. I'll show you putting in explosives later. I do want to make super penetrator rounds later. So to... Oh shoot, I just realized something. I'm gonna have to use a band. There we go. Slash HE. So how you make these special is you have to make it a shell. When you make it a shell, it gives you these two options. Just gonna make it impact. Fuse location is gonna be in the nose. Just gonna make it explosive. Again, this isn't good for knowing what round you're using, but to see the effect of the round, you have to go to here. We're not trying to make it too much, so I'm going to save that and see if it can go. The goal is still 30. Oh my goodness. It improved its piercing? What? And it improved everything, dude. I think. That's cool. But the amount of propellant in it, oh, we don't need AP options, but yeah. Projectile mass, projectile diameter, complexity. 5 millimeters. Let me see, 5 millimeters by about... It's not going to be a lot of explosives. I don't need it to be a ton of explosives, but... Let me see, what about 10? Let's do something dumb like 10. Let's see. At what range, at what level does it stop helping? Oh. What? Okay. So it definitely is detrimental at 10. It's not detrimental at... Looks like it's going 10 by about 80. So 10 by 80. 10 millimeters by 8 millimeters. It's 800 millimeters of explosives. Which is not too bad, not too shabby at all. It's actually a lot. Actually really good. But I'll just talk to that. And now that should still be more than... Oh no, it's not. It's not at all. The goal is 97 for this thing. And it was only doing better with 5, was it? Oh, it's actually... No, it did hurt it at first, too. But it helped it with only the lifetime barrel. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, it does help with piercing, because it makes it go faster, though. That's one of the major things, is it makes it go faster. Let me see, what does 8 do? Does 8 impact it in a major way? I'm gonna have to reload it. Yeah, we're really trying to pack it until it stops helping. So yeah, it really is only 5 millimeters at least for this variant. Then I'm gonna go see what the other variant can do. So 2 things. One, it's not sacrificing a lot of energy at range. It really is only sacrificing close range energy. But it is keeping a lot of speed, which seems to be helping it a lot to penetrate armor and such, which is nice to know. Nice to know indeed. Performing way better than it normally would. I think. I don't know. Let me try this. Let me try not doing anything to it, right? Okay. So 61 versus 63. So no, it's not helpful at all in the slightest. Versus it is helpful to this variant. I think. It might not be. It might not be, and I might be just going crazy. Yeah, it's not helpful at all. I'm just dumb. That's fine. The firearm, what we're really worried about is piercing 30 millimeters with greater than 80%. Okay? That's really what we're trying to do. We're not too worried about everything else. Okay. If I can, I will try to do 10. You do want to make these timed, and you will want to delay the timer to 0.2 seconds, because this basically will be, like, if you make it impact, it will explode basically on the outside of the tank instead of going inside of the tank. The 0.2 seconds or the 0.1 seconds, I don't know how long you really want to make it, but you want to make it more than 0.01, basically, more than just the immediately. Super explosive. Yeah, it loses a lot more energy here. 90%. Nice to know, nice to know. Still has a lot of energy at range. Can it do 20? Yep, it can do 20. And even 25. Nice. Okay. Perfect, good, awesome, amazing. This will take out engines and such. This variant, which is still solid, I believe. Which means we can actually put a little bit more propellant back in these boys. I'll be back. I'll be back. I just realized that again. Okay, I'll be back. Alright, so I boosted both of these. They now have, let me see, cylindrical, about 10 to 10 times, what is it? I'm willing to say 80. So 10 times 80 is 800 millimeters. And that's relatively, hold on, I'm gonna do math. I'm gonna do math to give you proper stuff, alright? So, I did the math, and I found out this is basically just firecrackers. This is basically just firecrackers going off in their face. And this is at generous calculations. These are just firecrackers. That being said, a firecracker going off in your face, it's still very dangerous. It's not deadly, but it's still very dangerous. So I'm gonna keep it like this. It means that some of them get, it means that they get the same amount of piercing with a little bit more oomph for it. So, you know, I like it. I'm keeping it. Because it would be a shame to have just a normal solid shot for tungsten when that really would not be useful. I'm gonna do that. They're both set and ready. Now I'm not doing that with any of these, to be fairly honest. Reason being, 10 millimeters is barely worthwhile to try to do anything like that. I do want to see if I can do explosive shrapnel chemical tracer illumination. Yeah, no, that's not worth it in the slightest. It's not worth it. Really, the only thing that would be worth it would be an HE round, and it's not even worth it for this. you do have the dragon, that would be moderately more worthwhile to make HE and all of these, which I will do later on. I'll see you guys in the next episode, but I'm not leaving just yet. If you want to, you can leave, but first, make sure you throw a like if you liked the video. If you didn't like the video, throw a dislike. If you like this type of content, or check out my other videos on this channel, and if you like those types of videos, go ahead and subscribe. Other than that, I hope to see you in the next video. You can go ahead and click off, but I'm going to go ahead and look at these for a little bit longer here. Yepper. Yeah, so Suba, not thick enough for any type of explosives in it. Maybe good enough for, yeah, Tracer. Kitsune, really no point in having a Tracer. Got HE round. These can be just trash. They're not worthwhile. You see, they're very low cost, though. Most of these are. Yeah, these are fairly hefty. 1.3, 1.4. These are really light. These are only like 5 pounds. Not even for this one. It's like 2.2 times 1.2. I'm not doing that math right now. Yes, I will. I'll do the math. Whatever. Fine. Whatever. 2.4 plus 0.24. So it's literally 2.5 pounds. So they're like fairly hefty. Fairly heavy pounds. Fairly heavy. Nothing insane though. Nothing insane, and they are very... These two are very costly. Especially this one. It's complex and it costs a lot. Alright. Well, see you guys in the next video. Throw a like if you like the video. Implore you, check out the other videos. I will talk to you later.